All right, so staying true to my word, it's 3:35. If we're all good, let's get started. So, hello everyone, I am Chasma Smith, founder of Try and Conquer. Try and Conquer is an inclusive platform connecting Black, Indigenous women of color to local outdoor activities as a healing modality to help them manage and conquer health and wellness challenges. We have an app that's in beta. It's accessible through your mobile or tablet's browser at tryxconquer.app. We're currently seeking outdoor ambassadors to join us on our mission to really help ensure all women fit in outdoors by leading local activities. So if that's you, head over to our app, navigate to the Become an Ambassador button, and sign up. So I'm super thrilled to kick off our inaugural Women in Wellness Summit. Again, this is a virtual series of online conversations with a variety of experts and enthusiasts in the outdoor space, all sharing their knowledge to really help prepare us for outdoor preparation, discuss our mental health, connection to nature, and more to encourage women with the necessary tools and confidence to venture outdoors. The summit obviously starts today, but we'll run through March 8th to coincide with International Women's Day. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined and speaking with Anastasia Locklin. Anastasia is a bilingual Black and Latinx marriage and family therapist in the state of California. She has 10 years of clinical experience and brings that to clients of Unlock Your Joy, a therapeutic and counseling service that she founded with the purpose and passion to aid women of color in their journey of hope, self-love, and joy by healing from childhood complex trauma, familial intergenerational issues, body dysmorphia, toxic relationships, codependency, and romantic relational struggles. So she does it all. She's got so much experience. Again, before we dive into the session, I again want to invite folks that join in to feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. And if you're comfortable, share how you manage your mental health and mental wellness. If at any point during the discussion you have a question, feel free to leverage that QA box with any comments or questions because we want to keep it interactive. And then at the very end, we'll go through any audience questions. So Anastasia, thank you so much for joining us today. First question, very important. In your own words, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California. I'm also a coach, and my goal and purpose is to aid women in their journey to connect with their most authentic selves, whatever that means for them. And we explore that, and we also will discuss and peel back layers, the barriers that keep us from being our most authentic selves.
Thank you for that. What led you to pursue your career? How did you get into this exactly?
So I feel like my life trajectory kind of just ran its course. I think I've always been a helper. I've always been, someone that wanted to take care. I've always been that person that people came to. I'm the oldest of four, the oldest, grandchild, the oldest cousin. And I think I just genuinely have always always cared about how other people were feeling, even if I wasn't able to express the way I was feeling or able to express the emotion very effectively myself. And that's a lot of area where I had to do work around is not only being able to hold the space for others, but also learning how to hold the space for myself so I can be my most optimal and authentic self as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You saying that you're the oldest, like everything, I just
Yeah.
know how depressing that is. I'm luckily not the oldest, but I did see my older sister struggle quite a bit with like everyone looking to her to be this role model and example. So, kudos to you for being, who you are and showing up and being able to show up for yourself and other people in both your personal and professional life. So the first question directly tied to our session is why do you think connection to nature is pivotal for mental wellness for women, specifically for women of color?
Mm-hmm. I think specifically for women of color, Black women typically have the highest rates of heart disease, diabetes, and stroke. So what also happens is when we have had history or genetic, disposure to that, what also translates is intergenerational stress. And so when we think about intergenerational stress, it could be both mental, physiological, and as well as physical. So right now is a very most important time for women of color, specifically Black women, to just get outdoors and move their bodies. We carry a lot of emotion in our bodies, and specifically in our womb space. And so I don't know if anyone here has ever experienced this, but we can actually feel stress in our stomachs, in our heads, in our chest areas. And so just being able to get outside, move your body, you're able to regulate and kind of release some of the emotions and trapped emotions we have in our body.
Yeah, that's very true. And yes, I have experienced that for sure. I suffer from migraines, and I do notice, like, when I'm, if I'm in doing a lot of these, like a lot of Zooms, I, make it a point to get up and get outdoors. So, you touched on like anxiety and stress and how this shows up for us in our bodies. And I want to make at this point, like, research shows that exposure to nature can help reduce anxiety. For women who are beginners, what are some tips to help them get outdoors? Like, they notice that they're experiencing anxiety or they're feeling this trauma physically. What are some ways that they can get started?
I think being able to start is one thing, but maybe even starting where you are, I think is going to be very important. I think sometimes we think about getting outdoors and we think about exercising, we can tend to have this all or nothing thinking. So if I'm not jogging, if I'm not doing yoga outside, if I'm not doing maybe all these different things, then, what am I doing? But what I would always say is just get outside, take that walk. If you need to dance outside in your front porch, like, just get your body moving. And potentially what will occur is, like, as you try to increase, start with a goal of twice a week, and I would say more times than not, you're going to want to increase that because you're going to notice the feeling that you have as a result of getting outside. I know me personally, if I don't get outside, at least for 10 minutes a day, I start to feel kind of wound up inside. And I can be like, all right, it's kind of time for me to get outside. Even if it's just getting outside and breathing, especially as now we're in the pandemic and a lot of us are working from home, our space has now become our workspace, our care space, everything is in our homes. And so being able to get outside and, experience a different type of energy, experience sunlight, if, where you are, it's sunny yet, I know in California, we're lucky. Today it's overcast, but the sun has been out already. And so the vitamin D is so important. And just being able to connect with nature, because I know that for me personally, when I'm in nature, I'm able to connect and hear myself again. I think sometimes we can get caught up in all the things that have to be done in the house, have to be done at home, whether we're caregiving or working. And going outside with intention is going to be very important right now. It's like, okay, even if it's 10 minutes, I'm going to allow myself to go outside for 10 minutes and just disconnect and be. So connecting with five senses, your smell, your taste, what do you hear outside? And just really allowing yourself to be mindful and present. I know will be very effective for women just trying to get outdoors for the first time, or even for the first time in a long time, and beginning to utilize outdoors as a way of therapeutic experience and expression for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up an amazing point of, just recognizing we're doing everything online, like work, school, socializing, you know, everything we're doing online. So most of our interactions with other people, even fitness, like a lot of people are doing, Zoom workouts and Zoom classes, just like as a way to navigate this new normal, but it also takes an effect on your well-being, your mental well-being, your physical well-being. So, I think, like you said, like even taking some time to just go outdoors and be mindful of the things around you, like exploring those senses, are some super easy and tangible ways that can help beginners to get outdoors and like look at it as something that's not a daunting experience if if they're
Yeah.
new to it or they haven't done it in a while. So let's dig a little bit deeper on that. So for like we were outdoors, what are some activities that you would recommend from your professional perspective that really helps to support mental well-being? Like now you're outdoors, you've done all of the mindfulness, taking it a step further.
Okay. So a step further, I would say try to get at least 15 to 20 minutes of like physical activity, where you're actually feeling your heart rate increase. And, extra step is you're actually sweating. When we are engaging in physical activities, our bodies will release endorphins, and those are the feel-good transmitters. When we're in a high stress experience, our nervous system will go into a fight or flight, and that's when we release cortisol. And unfortunately, as women, we hold a lot of cortisol in our tummies. I know since the pandemic, my cortisol has been there and it's kind of chilling right now, and so I've made a pact to myself this year. It's like, okay, I'm going to really try to work. And it's not about losing weight for me. It's about me being able to release and be mindful about the level of cortisol I'm exposing myself to. There's no measuring tape or any measuring cup around cortisol. But as long as I'm able to release some endorphins of some sort every day, that's enough for me. And that's what I'm encouraging a lot of my clients to do. Just take the time that you spend, scrolling in that phone for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, like put the phone down. It's going to be there, and get outside and try to break a sweat. Whatever, it could be walking fast. It could be jogging. It could be walking up a hill. I know different areas, regional wise, or different, we know where to go, to be able to walk that hill that may be tougher on a regular day, but doing these things with intention. Another thing I would suggest is if you're by water of any sort, water can be very healing and very soothing for us. I know personally, I'm a Cancer, so anybody that's into that, like water is my place of just zen. And so just being able to go walk outside by water is very, very healing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation because everything you're speaking on is like, yes, like, these are all the and to be affirmed in this way. You talked a lot about like how being physically active and reducing those cortisol levels and releasing endorphins. I'll share a little bit. So when I first started to experience and struggle with anxiety, and I started to seek therapy, one of the first things I was told was to get more exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you, I was incredibly annoyed. I was like, but I'm like, you're not understanding. I'm stressed out. I'm stressed out. This was many, many years ago before I really knew better. And I was just like, you're not listening to my concerns. I don't want to go work out. I'm not overweight. I'm stressed out. But what I realized, and when I started to really do it more and like really listen to my intuition of like, well, I don't have to go to a gym. I can just go outdoors because that's what I enjoy. And I noticed I was not only less stressed, but I was able to deal with the stress that I would encounter so much more effectively. And it was less of a hindrance to my overall like day or, my relationships and how I was managing everything else. So all of what you said, I can personally attest to, like, it works, it helps. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
I think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think you hit a very important point that I left out. Start with what feels good for you, right? Like the idea of starting outdoor exercise or outdoor activity that's going to stress you out is not going to be effective. So something like jogging, something like running, is the idea of it stresses you out. Don't start with that, right? Be able to connect with the things that feel good for you. And something else that came up for me right now, just as we're speaking, is there's a lot of people who are able to express themselves through creativity. And so even something like going outside and taking pictures and connecting with the things that you're able to express yourself or find beauty in, I think that could be very therapeutic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you bring this up, I wouldn't be a good business person or founder if I didn't put this plug. Try and Conquer is not just physical fitness, it's all types of activities that can be done outdoors that really support community and wellness and mental support. So beginner friendly to more cardio rich activities and creative things as well. So once we have a full launch. Anyone who's interested in supporting their mental wellness outdoors can go in there and see all of the activities we have to offer. So just also had to add that in there. So moving on to our next question, this ties into your specific experience around intergenerational stress and trauma. And statistically, Black women suffer from uh, higher rates of chronic stress and intergenerational stress itself. Can you explain exactly what that is and in your expertise, how nature ties to intergenerational stress and or well-being?
So intergenerational stress is stress that's passed down through generations. And it's also related to stressful situations or experiences, such as traumatic events. Trauma can be passed down behaviorally, it can be passed down emotionally, it can be passed down psychologically. And how it's related to nature is, my belief is that as Black women and women of color, we've been told that the outdoors, that outside isn't safe, right? So we're seeing it every day. We're seeing it, especially in the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. It's sometimes not safe to be a person of color and be outside. And so I think that is very prevalent in our Black communities. And I think it is something that we have to consider it, right? And so when we think about intergenerational stress, we think about the climate that we're in right now. We just have to be mindful, unfortunately, and always think of safety when we're going outside. If you're going outside alone, let somebody know where you are. I personally use my location app on my phone, the close friend or my partner's around, and kind of let him know, hey, I'm going to go take a walk. And so intergenerational stress in nature is prevalent because we've been told we're unsafe. We've experienced unsafety. And I think it's just something that we have to work through, and I think with more awareness that's going on, the hope is that nature and the world will be a better and safer place because we're in it now. And I do believe that we've all chosen to be here at this time. And so we can all have the ability to change what's going on right now. And so by us being in the spaces that maybe we've never really been in, I think it's important for us to also expand how we're able to gain all the beauty and all the treasures that nature has to share, not only with people who are not color, but people of color and anyone else that chooses to be in those environments.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It is a lot. There are things that you don't realize affect you, and they're like even thinking about my own personal family history of things that my grandmother has experienced and how she even like life lessons of this is how things are done type of things, and
Right.
you really have to work through unpacking that. Like you mentioned. The world has really not been very kind to people of color, jogging in neighborhoods and wanting to venture outdoors. And I agree. I do believe that we are all here at this pivotal point in time to really change, and we're here to do work that has been like placed on our hearts and in our, in our minds. Like we're actively working to unpack that. So, we talked about talk a little bit about like how the pandemic has affected our stress. How has it made, or I guess maybe a better question is, what is the impact it's made on your practice and your clients, and what are the long-term effects of COVID in people's mental well-being?
I think well, as far as my private practice, there's a wide spectrum of how people and individual folks have been affected by the pandemic. Um, I can say on one side of the spectrum, I have clients that are very, very introverted. And so they're living their best lives right now, to be completely honest. Like they are playing their video games, they are writing, they're reading, they're being creative. And the pressure of not being social, and it's almost understood that they're not going to be completely available to people, is actually allowing them to thrive. And they're able to do the work to connect with themselves, and kind of process through like, what about being themselves and being by themselves is comfortable for them. Whereas on the other end, I have clients that are really struggling with, lacking the social interaction, connection with people in their own communities. And that's something I can say that I actually have been struggling with, is just that lack of community. And I had to consciously and intentionally connect with professionals, connect with people that I know could sew into me, in order for me to stay focused and motivated. And so meeting with my clients weekly has really been something that clients have been really consistent about. Initially, I had clients say, oh, okay, we'll get back to therapy, when things kind of get back to normal. And I think at about like 6 months in, I kind of had a rush of clients, like all the clients that taken a break, clients from 3-4 years ago. And so I also had to put boundaries around, my accessibility for clients, as well as how many clients I'm seeing a week. Because the natural instinct in me, I just want to help everyone, right? But we know that we can't pour from an empty cup. And so boundaries are so important. I also teach my clients the importance of boundaries. And so, gratefully, and I'm very thankful, I've actually been doing really well private practice wise, due to the pandemic, but it's been a lot of transition, a lot of restructuring, and the work has definitely been different. In the pandemic, things have come up for people that they thought, okay, I'm healed from that, I've done that work. Things have come up from childhood, inner childhood, issues have come up. And I think we've really been able to have the time, and myself included, to get introspective and be able to identify the shadow aspects of ourselves that maybe when we're on the go, we're social, especially people who are extroverted, are able to kind of push those different, I don't want to say negative, but they're just feelings that we're not usually having to deal with because we have a lot of external motivating factors that allow us to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I muted myself. So you mentioned like some things that have come up for people, that they thought they had healed with or healed from, years ago. Things have kind of resurfaced with the pandemic. I think we all kind of expected, oh, we'll go into lockdown for 2 weeks or whatever it was at the beginning. And here we are, like an entire year later, just now starting to really see larger numbers of people getting a vaccine. So in short, like it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And like if issues that people thought that they had, healed from childhood have resurfaced, what type of issues do you think people might find resurfacing specifically from COVID? Just like things that they, never had to deal with because of this situation might come up like in a year from now or however long we're still in this situation.
And I can even speak for myself in that situation. I've always been a very like social person. And so like crowds and groups of people have never really like affected me. But I have developed my own social anxiety. There have been certain events or just gatherings that I've had with like family, and I will feel like my own just anxiety around like how I'm feeling, how many people are going to be there. Is this choice safe? Are we, utilizing all the different precautions? And so I definitely think social interaction, and I think it's going to be prevalent in this like social anxiety, as well as just various types of anxieties that may come up with, we've been isolated for a long time. And so we may look different or we may feel different, or even the things that we've processed through, whether it be looking at ourselves introspective, and maybe even friendships have a different meaning. And so being able to be honest with ourselves and just take our time to get back to a place of like our optimal self, and also kind of recreating. I think we've had a lot of time to sit with ourselves and identify, you know, what are the things that have meaning to us? What are the relationships that are still serving us and pouring into ourselves? And so my biggest suggestion and encouragement to people is just take their time and listen to their inner self and connect with, you know, what feels right for them and when. There's no rush, you know, and we are able to receive downloads and intuitively know what's good for us if we just kind of take the time and sit with it and listen and don't resist.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Those are all really great pieces of information you shared. Let's lighten the mood just a tiny bit, and then we'll jump back into unpacking like a little bit more of the heavier things. So um, we've talked about like activities for women getting started and like all of the things. What are some things that you do personally that help you to stay mentally okay and like
Okay.
manage all of the things that you're dealing with? Because also as a mental health professional, you assist people all day, every day. What are you doing to manage your own mental health?
I've really had to restructure my day. I was someone in the past prior to the pandemic that I would like to get in the office early and then have the rest of my evenings to kind of do as what I pleased. But with being home, working from home, and seeing clients all day, what I've intentionally and purposely had to do is split up my days into like two parts. And so I will take the time in the morning to kind of, if I want to go walk or jog or even just do a little workout outside. I do it outside because I'm doing things with intention. But I also will take a 2-hour block, typically between 3 and 5, to get outside and actually get my body moving. So that's something I've had to, and that was something I struggled with because I was just like, but clients are want to take 1.5 sessions at 3 o'clock. How am I going to do this? And that's something that I had to create a boundary around of like, in order for me to be my most optimal self, I have to break up my days and just kind of sitting at home, you know, especially when we're in the office, we can get up, walk around, talk to our coworker, go get some coffee, get a Starbucks break. That's 30 minutes for whatever reason, right? Like we're able to actually move our bodies and we're in different environments. And so that's one thing. I also invested in a bike. I haven't had a bike since I was like 12, but it really has connected me with my like inner child. I'd be rolling, I put my headphones on, and in those 2 hours, I'm like zooming, right? And it's really fun for me. And so for me to come back and just be in a space where I had some fun midday, it really lightens my load. And I definitely am able to see my mood. And if I have an anxiety in my body, it's kind of, it is released ultimately. And I'm able for the next half of my day.
Thanks for sharing that. I'm like envisioning, I haven't ridden a bike in years. I'm actually a little nervous about, I guess maybe riding a bike on the street, but I love what you shared in terms of like breaking your day up and like figuring out what works for you. That's definitely a big revelation that I had for myself is, you know, not working for a big company. I set my own pace. And so that was just kind of like, oh, I can actually take a break when I need to. Like, let me get up and get moving. But I think it was so ingrained in me for such a long time that from 9 to 5, you work, work, work. And even though I'm at home in my own space, I was really doing that and not really taking enough breaks to just get up and move my body. So hearing you say that is just like, it's nice to hear that other women are aware of like these different, like very easy things that we can do to just support ourselves and help ourselves. I think also these things are really helpful for folks that are caregivers, like thinking about people during this period who, you know, may have, you know, children or elderly parents or, you know, God forbid someone being, you know, sick. Dealing with all of that as well is so important to take some time out for your own health and wellness and well-being, so that you can show up and be there for other folks as they need. So great. So I want to ask about some common issues. So your practice serves women of color primarily, right? what are some of the most common issues that you see concerning this demographic? And in that vein, how do you tackle those things first?
Mhm. Um, so I feel like my practice, I have a wide range of different clients that I do see. Some of the common, I guess, struggles would be relationship struggles, whether it be relationships with, as women of color with their own mothers. That's something that is very prevalent in my practice. So like mother wounds, inner child work. Um, I see a lot of overachievers and perfectionists. And as a recovering perfectionist, I get the struggle. And that's something that we work collectively and together to see like where does it stem from. And at the core of it, usually there's an inner critic that we've adopted from either our parents or our caregivers or teachers or friends. And so we do a lot of work peeling back those layers and identifying that the inner critic isn't your own voice, and being able to really do the work around discerning what's your voice and what's society's voice or adopted truths that we tend to cling on to. Other struggles would be I see a lot of clients with anxiety and depression, whether it's moderate, maintenance, situational. Yeah, I think those are like the three. And I think depending on like what's going on in the climate, of course, racial and sexual microaggressions are prevalent, whether it's at work or within their own communities. And yeah, those are, I would say, the top struggles and things that we work through in my practice.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I found it interesting, and I started smiling to myself because I'm like, oh, she would say perfectionism as the first thing that I have struggled with for a very long time. I think Nasira, who's on the call, probably knows this a lot as well. But for myself, it was manifesting as procrastination. And I thought like, oh, why can't I get this done? Like what? And I never really realized that what it was that was holding me back from getting things done wasn't like low motivation or lack of ambition. I was so stuck on this has to be perfect before I launch, or it has to be perfect before I share this with other people. Otherwise, they're going to, judge me or laugh or think this isn't great. Also tying it, you touched on this at the very end of what you were saying is like where it stems from. It also definitely stemmed from racism and like being ingrained into this patriarchal society of like, you're a Black woman, you've got to be twice as good, you've got to show up and be nice and be sweet and not look aggressive or be, like you want people to take you seriously, therefore you must be serious about all of these things. And so that type of perfectionism for me, especially like as I came out of college, was like really, really prevalent. Like I just was hindering myself in a lot of different ways, and just totally different person today, thankfully. But yeah, that's awesome that you are able to help clients work through that and deal with, a multitude of issues that are impacting our communities so much these days. I wanted to ask if there was any like tips for people on the call who might be, I'm not sure if folks shared this already. I'll jump to the QA in a second. If there's any questions, go ahead and leave them now. But if there's maybe like 3 to 5 things, pieces of advice that people can walk away with today from a licensed therapist in like dealing with COVID, mental health issues, whatever it is that you're dealing with, what are some tangible ways that you can give people from your perspective?
I would say get your body moving and get outside, whether it's jogging, whether it's walking, whether it's being able to connect with the 5 senses: taste, smell, hear, sight, and really just being able to be mindful. I noticed that I think Miss Nasira said that she is able to manage mental health by journaling, and that's something we didn't touch on. That is also something that I do. Like when I'm riding my bike, I take a break and I just write down what comes up for me, because I kind of, how we mentioned earlier, is sometimes when we get outside, we're able to connect with our inner voice and disconnect from our heads, right? Our logical sense, and get out of our heads and get into our hearts. And so I would recommend getting in nature to do exactly that, to just be able to be present and be mindful. I would also say to think of the time that you spend outside as an investment in your mental health, as an investment in your physical and spiritual health, and taking the time the same way how you would take the time to maybe do the things that we're not able to do right now. Maybe, you take that time to do the manicure, pedicure, you're able to take the time to get that facial, get your hair done. We're not able to do those things. And so with intention and purposely taking the time to utilize this space and this time right now that we're in to really create intentional routines and rituals for yourself, I think can be one of the best gifts that you can give yourself that can come out of this pandemic.
Absolutely. You said it. Like, it is definitely an investment in yourself. And as you were speaking, I'm thinking, this is self-care. And I see it so much, like people put an emphasis on, the bubble baths and the candles and like the pretty things, which are all great. There's nothing wrong with that. But self-care looks very different for different people. And it absolutely can and probably should include more time outdoors, away from your computers, maybe away from your family, just you, or maybe with your family. But yeah, it's absolutely an investment in yourself. And it is nice to have someone who has clinical experience and understands how the brain and body are connected and works, also saying these very things. So I appreciate that. So I am going over to the chat box. Does anyone have any questions or want to maybe share some other things that they're doing for their own mental health, or maybe even struggles that you're having right now and just kind of want to share in the safe space, kind of what's coming up for you? Deja, I don't know if you were trying to speak, but we cannot hear you.
I think Miss Vanessa's hand is up too.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. Thank you so much for taking the time out to go over this very, very important topic, especially, post-COVID and whatever else is going to happen in 2021. I just wanted to share that I thought that I was doing the self-care routines all of my life. And then when I had trauma show up that was swept under the rug, it didn't matter how much kickboxing that I did. It didn't matter how much CrossFit that I did. It didn't matter, my diet, none of that mattered. My whole body literally crashed. And I discovered the next level of self-care, which was a more soft approach to aligning my body. And in the past year, due to quarantine, I discovered an even deeper approach, which is the most still I've ever been. Because as Anastasia, I was a social butterfly. Although I'm an introvert, I was a social butterfly specific for just networking and strategy for my startup.
Yeah.
And when the quarantine happened, I discovered mindfulness and chakras and meditation on a level that incorporates vibrational work. And then with my dog, getting outside I missed it. I missed just bringing him out. So I missed the going outside as much as I used to, but with my dog. You know, now we're restrained to certain, you know, where we live, and we're not on the trains, and we're not, you know, really going around the city as much. I'm in New York City. So I did not realize how much using the five senses, like what you said, was so prevalent in my life pre the coronavirus. And now I salivate for it. I mean, I salivate for it. So I just wanted to just share that statement with you, because I have been experiencing it, and it's worked wonders. I manage my mental health with, you know, there's therapy, group therapy, medical marijuana. There's also medicine. But my goal is to transition to complete medical marijuana and all of the deeper, soft, still approaches. And the last thing is an actual question. I talk to myself, and I didn't realize how much I talked to myself until my father said, "You talk to yourself." I said, "Yes, I know. As long as I don't answer myself, it's okay." He says, "No, you talk to yourself a lot." And ever since he said that, I started to feel weird for talking to myself. Is that normal?
Girl, I talk to myself every day, every hour. Okay? That is you connecting with you. Don't let anybody tell you any different.
Thank you. Okay. Because I never brought it up in therapy. I never ever brought it up. I just thought everyone did it. But I just wanted to confirm today.
As long as what you're saying to yourself is not harmful to yourself, harmful to anyone else, or you're plotting to do harm to anybody, you're completely fine. I think a lot of us, we hold in a lot of our thoughts and our emotions. And so when you're able to be fluid in your communication with yourself, I think that's a beautiful thing.
Who is this, Nasira? She says, don't let somebody else judge your process or attach negative stigmas to it. Absolutely, absolutely. And then there's a couple folks, Michelle's gonna go for a walk. Nasira also says she's going for a walk and bringing her jump rope. That's one of my favorite activities is jump rope. It's like so easy. You can take it with you anywhere. I have my jump rope. I go to the park and I'm just like going at it. How can people connect with you either as a new client or even accepting new clients or professionally on social medias? If there's any places you want to share for folks to connect with you now, let us know.
Okay, so I'll write my handles for Instagram in the chat, but I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. My website is www.unlockyourjoytoday.com. I'm actually in the process of creating healing circles for women. We're going to have two different ones in the month of April. One is going to be for confidence and self-esteem, and the other one's going to be for toxic relationships, whether you feel like you're in one right now or you want to do healing from a past toxic relationship. And my email is easy, Anastasia@unlockyourjoytoday.com. Yeah, I would love to connect with everyone here, and I'm open. I am accepting new clients, but I'm also going to provide different offerings for the community, for the group aspect of connection as well in the next couple months.
Amazing. This is a great way to spend a Wednesday. I appreciate the time. And if you're interested in any other of the other sessions, please check out the link in the bio of Try X Conquer's Instagram page.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to connecting with everyone here.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. This was great.
Thank you.
Bye.